is Ben Hooks. My job is Executive Director of the NAACP, the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. The film series we are about to present is about the black experience in America. But it is about part of that experience that we don't often hear about. We hear about the great athletes, the funny comedians, the marvelous TV stars. Thank God for them, because they are doing a great job. But you know, we can't all do that. But what we can do, and what we have done, is to achieve equal excellence in other areas of life. Today, think of the fine arts, painting, sculpture, serious music, dance, drama. Think of the tremendous impact of black leadership in this area of the American experience. The great achievements of black people in these areas have been in spite of all types of obstacles, discouragements, and hostilities that even now are still to be overcome. But the achievements have happened and are happening now. This film series begins where the black experience in America started. It begins with the origins. To introduce this segment, I'm happy to present a young man who, because of his achievements, is particularly suited to tell you this story. Director, actor, George Stanford Brown.
Welcome to an adventure story. It's an exciting story, filled with pirates and battles, escapes, terror, pain, revenge, kidnappings, secret meetings, and happy reunions. Now, what makes this story out of the ordinary is this. It's about a dark journey we took a long time ago, and in the end, the triumph of human spirit. It's a story that cannot be told too often. It's a sad comment on the world, but think of this a minute. So often, great art and great achievements are born out of anger, alienation, and frustration. The famous historian Arnold Toynbee called it challenge and response. So you see, from the seeds of slavery in America came the fruits of culture. Our story begins in the rich and colorful community life of West Africa several hundred years ago. In the 15th and 16th centuries, the Yorubas of West Africa were among the most culturally advanced peoples on the continent. Batik was one of the earliest practice arts. Woven cloth came from Mali to the north, and decorative jewelry was finely worked in brass, silver, and gold. Some of the world's finest bronze sculpture was created at Ife. Pottery and baskets were decorated according to local customs and could be so identified. Musicians made their own instruments and were among the elite of the villages. A person of great importance and influence was the griot. He was a storyteller, a traveling troubadour. But more than that, he was the recorder of history, the authority who went from village to village carrying the news. Here, at this Yoruba wedding ceremony, he passes on his stories, and the people, for emphasis, repeat the principal facts.
Kuna kuzali bato na mokili musika na ngambo mususu penepene na mai ba mususu bazali malamu misusu mabe.
This is the origin of the call and response, which echoes down through history and is a big influence even on today's modern music. In this Yoruba story, the griot warns the people of a coming danger: slavery. Torn from their families, taken from their homes, left with only their bodies, their minds, and the echo of what they were. Taken in chains to the coast, they were inhumanly packed into the cramped holds of slave ships bound for North America.
Deep in the festering hold thy father lies. The corpse of mercy rots with him. Rats eat love's rotten, jellied eyes. But oh, the living look at you with human eyes, whose suffering accuses you, whose hatred reaches through the swill of dark to strike you like a leper's claw. You cannot stare that hatred down, or chain the fear that stalks the watchers and breathes on you its fetid, scorching breath. Cannot kill the deep, immortal human wish, the timeless will. Voyage through death to life on these shores.
And so, the enslaved people of many West African cultures were put to working the land. Raw, unskilled labor. That's what a man was bought and sold for. But the realities of life reawakened cultural instincts. To keep warm at night, quilts were fashioned out of cast-off clothes. The patterns instinctively followed half-forgotten African designs, still seen today in modern textiles. Old skills were quickly relearned. Slave owners found that many slaves made excellent blacksmiths. Woodworking skills among the slaves were put to use in carpentry tasks, furniture making, and wood carving.
Since skilled labor was hard to find in colonial America, slaves were always in demand as masons, cobblers, locksmiths, tanners, bookbinders, silversmiths, and engravers.
The plantation owners feared the possible power of the slaves. The owners were suspicious about blacks gathering alone for religious activity, and at best, tolerated it. In America, the slaves identified with the biblical Hebrews in Egyptian bondage. They had overheard those stories in white Sunday schools and sermons, and they adapted the tales to their own situation. Even in the face of danger, they gathered to hear them retold and rearranged in their own African manner, creating a distinctive oral literature. The group leader naturally was the storyteller, the griot.
So the Lord, he talked to Moses. Yeah. He said, if the Pharaoh still wouldn't let the children of Israel leave on their own, then Moses should call for a plague or locust to come and eat every tree, every leaf, every grain in Egypt. And that's just what Moses did. Oh, he stretched forth the hand and he raised his staff and he called for a great east wind, and it blew all night, it blew all morning, and it brought the locust, and the locust covered the face of the land of Egypt. And the land was dark, and the locust ate the trees, it ate the fruit, it ate the cotton, it ate the cane, and it ate every single tree living in the whole land of Egypt. Amen. And the Pharaoh, oh, the Pharaoh, he called for Moses. And he said, Moses, I see how I was wrong in not giving the children of Israel their freedom. And he sure was silent and pleased with Moses for giving me sin. And Moses, he prayed to the Lord. And the Lord brought forth a powerful west wind, and it blew every single one of them locusts right on down. Oh, yes it did. Yes it did. And then, but the Pharaoh, mean Pharaoh, the Lord, he hardened his heart. And he still wouldn't let the children of Israel go.
Slaves were not only forbidden to gather, but laws were passed against the teaching of reading and writing. Therefore, weddings such as this one relied on the oral tradition. The word-of-mouth tradition and its powers of communication were more and more vested in the preacher, the griot.
How many do you say there are?
About 30, maybe more.
Armed? Are they armed?
It's hard to tell. It's dark. But they got torches.
What damage?
Burned a Morris barn. Scattered the horses.
Where is Morris?
Took his wife and went to Mill Creek. What are we going to do?
You tell that preacher I want to have a talk with him. I'm going to put the fear of God into him.
You think that's going to do any good?
We're going to have quiet darkies or dead ones.
I'll get the preacher.
This is the rule. No more than 5 slaves are to gather for any reason unless there's a white man present. Now that means no church meeting, and it means no preaching. This is your only warning. If we catch you together, we'll sell the men and ship the women and children down the river. Do you understand me, preacher? Now you tell your people.
Can you read? You want to be free?
Yeah.
You want to get to the north? I got something for you.
By the late 1840s, people against slavery from the north were secretly visiting the south. Did preachers and leaders, papers and pamphlets such as the Black Chronicle and David Walker's Appeal. David Walker's Appeal was known as the first and most famous statement against slavery from the pen of a black man.
Runs, falls, rises, stumbles on from darkness into darkness, and the darkness thicketed with shapes of terror, and the hunters pursuing, and the hounds pursuing, and the night cold, and the night long, and the river to cross, and the jackma lanterns beckoning. Renegade, 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 rise and go, or fare you well. No more auction block for me, no more driver's lash for me. Oh, that train, ghost story train, through swamp and savannah, move her in, over trestles of dew, through caves of the wish, midnight special on a saber track, move her in, first stop mercy and the last a hallelujah. Hum, rider my train, mean to be free.
After the Holocaust, there was a freedom, on paper at least. Technically, slavery had ended, but the struggle for equality was just beginning. The mighty, vigorous tree that had come from Africa had been pruned back almost to its roots. But from those roots sprang a healthy new growth, a vital, intense growth that made important contributions to the mainstream of American life. So you see, it is through those contributions in art, music, theater, dance, science, political leadership that the descendants of Africa have gained the attention of the world, securing a place in our contemporary culture.
The pens of black Americans have been used in the fight to gain recognition of our equality. Poets, novelists, playwrights, all have written eloquently and passionately. In doing so, they have created great literature as well as persuasive arguments. These writings have become part of the American scene and part of the literary heritage of all Americans.
One of the foremost poets in America is actor, writer, Roscoe Lee Brown.
The pen is mightier than the sword. Now, surely you've heard that quotation before, but perhaps you never really thought a lot about what it means. And as has been said before, the greatest eloquence and the most persuasive words are frequently provoked by anger, oppression, and anguish. Small wonder, then, that black writers have made some of the most important contributions to contemporary American literature. Each had something important to say, and each found an indelible way to say it. One of the monumental figures in contemporary American literature was a Joplin, Missouri man named Langston Hughes. Hughes was a poet and a novelist and the winner of many prizes and much acclaim. But he will be best remembered as the man who took the frustration and the humor, the anguish and the joy, indeed the actual life of the poor, and made their voices heard throughout the world. He made moving poetry out of the language of the streets. Listen to a bit of Lenox Avenue mural, a word picture of New York's Harlem. What happens to a dream deferred? Does it dry up like a raisin in the sun, or fester like a sore and then run? Does it stink like rotten meat, or crust and sugar over like a syrupy sweet? Maybe it just sags like a heavy load, or does it explode? Another contemporary writer is Margaret Walker, the daughter of an Alabama minister. She often said that she believed that a good sermon was like poetry, and that poetry was like a good sermon. Margaret Walker is a prize-winning novelist and poet. The words that follow are from her famous poem, For My People. For my people, lending their strength to the years, to the gone years, and the now years, and the maybe years, washing, ironing, cooking, scrubbing, sewing, mending, hoeing, plowing, digging, planting, pruning, patching, dragging along, never gaining, never reaping, never knowing, and never understanding. For the cramped, bewildered years we went to school to learn to know the reasons why and the answers to and the people who and the places where and the days when, in memory of the bitter hours when we discovered we were black and poor and small and different and nobody cared and nobody wondered and nobody understood. For my people thronging 47th Street in Chicago and Lenox Avenue in New York and Rampart Street in New Orleans, lost, disinherited, dispossessed, and happy people, filling the cabarets and taverns and other people's pockets, needing bread and shoes and milk and land and money and something all our own. Many eloquent people have brought attention to the black experience. Unique among them is this writer of essays, novels, and plays, James Baldwin. It is said that in his work, the English language sings again. Recently, the noted actor Brock Peters asked James Baldwin what it took to be a writer.
It's a hard question to answer, because it's both simple and very complex. I was born in the church. My father was a preacher. I was a preacher for a while. I was saved, as they say. But I learned something in it about other human beings. I learned something in it about myself. Maybe I can say, but I'm telescoping it, that the effort to be a writer is an act of love. It's an act of faith.
Brock asked Mr. Baldwin what impact he thought was made on black culture
by the fact that, until rather recently, the tradition was largely oral in nature.
We, if I may say so, I think that we are, black people of this country, are extraordinary in that we are the product of a history which was not written down, which was handed down from mother to daughter, from father to son. And the vehicle of that is the church. The church was the only institution where a black man is free. From Africa to Mississippi to Chicago is quite a journey. And what happened to my father was he never understood, how could he, that we hit the streets. We had to hit the streets. That's where our challenges were. And we did not remember the landscape, which he remembered, And one of the reasons he went mad was because he lost his children in the streets of New York.
In recent years, the American stage has been enriched by a number of vital plays from the pens of black playwrights. Amen Corner by James Baldwin, Ossie Davis's Pearly Victorious, The Dutchman by Leroy Jones, and perhaps the most universal of all, Lorraine Hansberry's touching Raisin in the Sun. In this key scene, we see Mama, a strong Southern matriarch, struggling to understand her son's changing values now that they live in a hostile northern city.
How come you talk so much about money?
Because it's life, Mama.
Money is life?
Mm-hmm.
Once upon a time, freedom used to be life. Now it's money. I guess the world really do change.
No, Mama, it's always been money. We just didn't know about it.
No. Something has changed. You something new, boy. In my day, we was worried about not being lynched and how to make it to the north if we could. Or how just to stay alive and have a pinch of dignity, too. But now here come you and Benita talking about things we ain't never even thought about, hardly me and your daddy. You ain't satisfied or proud of nothing we done. I mean that you had a home. We kept you out of trouble till you was grown. And you ain't never had to ride to work on the back of nobody's streetcar. You're my children. But how different we done become.
You don't understand, Mama. Mama, you just don't understand.
Before the play ends, Walter Lee gets into deep trouble. And then why don't you look up the play, Raisin in the Sun by Lorraine Hansberry, and collect your friends and read all the parts aloud. You'll enjoy it. It'll be fun. Oh, there's something else I wanted to say to you, and that is that perhaps everything we've been speaking about involves freedom. Now, black writers write on the same subjects that all writers write on. However, the insistent beat in all black poetry and literature of all kinds is the presence of the absence of freedom. Let me illustrate with a poem that captures, I think, the essence of what we've been saying. It is a poem by that prize-winning, distinguished poet Gwendolyn Brooks. And she calls it Paul Robeson. And if you'll forgive me, I'll wear my glasses to read it to you. At that time, we all heard it, cool and clear, cutting across the hot grit of the day. The major voice, the adult voice, foregoing rolling river, foregoing tearful tale of bale and barge, and other symptoms of an old despond, warning in music words, devout and large, that we are each other's harvest, we are each other's business, we are each other's magnitude and bond. Oh, the power
that is in words. It's mighty, stronger than physical force, stronger than money, because once you put words into a person's mind, nothing can remove them. And that is why, to Black America still struggling for true equality, words that sing out are still such a vital part of the struggle.